All right, 4 p.m. games on Sunday. Let's start with the first one. It's the Cincinnati Bengals at 4:05 are traveling out to the Seattle Seahawks. That's always tough, playing in at the NFL's version of the 12th man.
Absolutely.
It's on CBS locally. The line is 9.5 that Seattle is giving to the Bengals, and the over-under is 44. So another year of Big Red behind the helm with Cincinnati. Don't believe in the guy. I'm sorry. Nice guy, good college quarterback. A.J. Green's going to be out for at least 4 weeks. Joe Mixon, I think, will have a better year this year. Certainly will, I think, see the ball not just out of the backfield running, but throwing the ball. Gio is still there, but I think you'll see more catching opportunities for Mixon this year. Tyler Eifert, Jordan Reed syndrome. Can he stay healthy? I know Tyler Boyd did very well in the absence of A.J. Green last year. In fantasy football, his ADP was through the roof. I think teams can learn from what happened last year. I don't think it's going to be such a great performance for him. On the other side of the ball, you've got Seattle just bringing in Jadeveon Clowney on defense. I think he's going to be the centerpiece of the defense. I think they'll do Seattle defense things, and I think game script-wise, Seattle was the number one rushing team offensively last year, and I think that will continue. I think Chris Carson will get a lot of work, and I know they want to have Rashad Penny mixed in there, but I think Fumble-Rooski problems. I think he's just not the guy they drafted him to expect to be, or at least not yet, and I don't know how long of a leash he'll have. I think Russell Wilson will do his thing, and I think at the end of the day, what is the over-under we set on this thing? 44? Yeah, probably pretty close. I think Cincinnati's going to have a tough time scoring, but yeah, I'm going to probably go under on that. I'm going to say, I don't know that Seattle's going to cover the spread. I'm going to say maybe like a 21-14 game. Oh, yeah, 24-14. That sounds about right. 21-14. Yeah, Seattle's given 9.5. So that would say since he's going to cover, and they're under on the over-under. I think, again, game script's going to play out. I think that Seattle's going to run the ball, probably have the ball 60-70% of the game, and at the end of the day, I just don't think there's enough firepower offensively. I think the key is Joe Mixon for Cincinnati, and I just don't know if he's going to be able to get it done by himself against that Seattle D.
Well, I agree with you on who's going to win. I think the Seahawks have everything on their side in this game. I think it's going to be really, really lopsided. I'm going to go with a 30-6 score. I think that they're going to throw a little bit with Seattle. The Bengals defense continues. They're almost like the Marvin Lewis in the sense that it's the same guys year after year. The problem is they just keep getting older. I think the offense is going to be pretty one-dimensional. Just Dalton can be pushed into mistakes, and I think Mixon, they're going to come after him. They're infamous for stopping the run. I don't know that it's going to be some sort of Clowney show, but he certainly makes that team stronger, and I just see them containing all the offense that Cincinnati can put at them. And so, like I said, 30-6 is my prediction.
Okay. All right. Next game, we've got the San Francisco 49ers traveling to the East Coast to take on the Tampa Bay Bucks at 4:25. This is a local game on Fox. I've got the spread at 1 for Tampa Bay, which is the borderline pick. Usually if the home team gets or gives 3, then that's kind of even. So it's got Tampa Bay giving the 49ers 1. The over-under is 51. What you thinking?
The Buccaneers, this is just like Marcus Mariota, same draft class for Jameis Winston. This is do or die for them. He's got to perform. He's about to come out of the big contract or move into the big contract territory or move on as a journeyman. I also think the 49ers are under some stress, too, as well. Shanahan's got to prove with Garoppolo healthy that he can replicate the high-flying offense he had in Atlanta. I think Shanahan's a very good coach. I do think also, again, just very much like I mentioned in Jacksonville, the weather's going to play out. The concern for me is the Buccaneers running game. I just don't know that they can maintain anything. And not that San Francisco is a juggernaut. Certainly they got injuries and they got issues over there. But I just feel like San Francisco is going to be able to kind of eke this one out. I think it's going to be probably like a 21-17 game is what I'm looking for the Niners.
Okay. All right. So you've got the Niners covering the spread, but we are under on the over-under because, again, that was 51.
Yep.
On my side of it, Jimmy Grapes didn't look that great in preseason, but it is preseason. I think that I think you're going to see a little bit of work from Tevin Coleman. I think that you'll see the 49ers throwing the ball the majority of the time. I think maybe not well over 50%, but they're going to be throwing over 50% of the game. And I think a lot is anticipated out of George Kittle. He's a big target, and considering what happened in the preseason, I'm not going to be surprised to see him have a big game. I think the reluctance of all the picks that blow through in the preseason may make him reluctant and just check it down to a George Kittle. So on the other side of the ball, Tampa Bay. You said it, it's Winston's contract year. There's a lot of talk in fantasy circles about, and ADP-wise, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are very close to each other. So if they're going to go off, well, then Winston's the guy that's helping him get there. I think at the end of the day, and you're right, I don't know what's going on in the backfield. Ronald Jones Jr., is that experiment going to come to a close in his second year? And you got Peyton Barber starting. Well, he's just I think, though, that the fact that it is at home and the weather and them traveling, everything involved, I think that Tampa Bay will pull this one out. I'm going to go actually a little higher scoring. I'm going to go 28-24 Tampa Bay. So I have them covering the spread and being, 28-24. So yeah, that's just over the 51 over-under. So that's what we're looking at there.
Okay.
Next game we're going to talk about is the Detroit Lions at the brand new Arizona Cardinals. It is a 4:25 game locally on Fox. Detroit is giving 2.5 to the Cardinals, and the over-under is 46.5.
Yeah, this is. I think combined, if these teams win 7 games this year, I might be shocked. I think these are two teams. Some people are a little bit higher on the Lions. I am just not seeing it. I'm not a believer in kind of what Patricia's doing. I heard all the talk about how they were going to run the ball and Kerryon Johnson, and I didn't see anything that really got me excited there. I do think they're the better team. I think the Cardinals have chaos in so many places right now. The hope is that they can run an offense that is just ultra explosive, but they're going to need to run an ultra explosive offense, I think, to be able to compete. The Lions, I think, they're gonna try to run the ball because they've been talking about doing it. I can't remember the last time they've had a 1,000-yard rusher. So it's been many years. So I just think this is a game. I don't think it's going to blow the doors off you. I'm going to go with the Lions winning, and it'll probably be a little bit more high scoring than what I think these two teams are really worth against anybody solid. So I'm going to go with a score of 24-13. I think Kyler Murray's going to have a tough day. I'm not seeing it right out of the gate.
Okay, so you have the Lions covering the spread, but under on the over-under.
Yep.
New head coach, we got 2 wild cards in my mind in this game. New head coach for Arizona and new quarterback, Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray. I think that them going to this air raid with somebody like Kyler Murray and the explosiveness of him, Detroit's defense started to look better at the end of the year. Matthew Stafford's getting older. Pat Peterson, I think, is still Pat Peterson. They're going to put him against Galladay. I don't think Marvin Jones scares anybody. And, we'll see how. I think that Kerryon could have a good day. I think he could score once. I think he'll probably see maybe close to 20 touches, but maybe less. I'd lean on the less side, and here's why. I don't think Detroit defensively exactly knows what they're about to go up against. It's a little bit of a mystery, and it's at home for Arizona, and I think that it could be a fun day for Kyler Murray. I'm going the other way. I think it's going to be a fun day for Kyler Murray, and I think that he's going to have a lot of yards on the ground and through the air. I think you'll see Fitzgerald help keep him in check as the veteran. Christian Kirk could have a good day. I'm hoping David Johnson gets back to form, as I have drafted him in fantasy. But I do think at the end of the day that Detroit is not going to have enough firepower to keep up with Arizona. And I think Arizona is going to put it on a bit. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but obviously Detroit giving the points. I'm going to take Arizona getting the 2.5. I'm going to predict let's say a 30-28 victory. Actually, no, let's go 30-21. I'm not sure the Lions are going to be able to score as much as we think. So we'll go 30-21, Arizona, obviously covering the spread, and that hits over on the over-under of 46.5.
All right.
We got what? 2 more afternoon games. So let's go to the next one, which is the Indianapolis Colts traveling out west to take on the LA Chargers. I've got a 6.5 point spread. The Chargers giving 6.5 to the Colts. It's an over-under of 44.5. This game is at 4:05 on CBS locally. What you thinking?
I'll tell you, obviously there's the big unknown after the shock. The retirement heard around the world a couple weeks ago with Andrew Luck. I think people have changed their opinion drastically, and in my opinion, a little too drastically on this Colts team. I believe they still have a very solid defense. They've got a decent running game. They have one of the best offensive lines, if not the best in football, and they still got weapons on the outside. I think Brissett can really still do some things with this team, and I look at a Chargers who have a good defense, but they lost Derwin James, so that is a bit of a challenge. They are void of Melvin Gordon, so how does that play out for them? I think this game is going to be a little bit closer. I do think the Chargers are going to win this game, but it's going to be very close, and I'm talking 3 points or less. If I'm going to give a prediction on it, I think Brissett ends up having a very efficient day, and I would put the final score somewhere in the 27-24 category. I think the Colts are going to do some things out there with the Chargers. I think in the end, it's going to be the fact that Phillip Rivers is just a little more seasoned, a little bit better passer, and the Chargers are not void of weapons, and I think they win that game.
Okay, so you've got you're taking the Chargers for the win, 27-24, so they won't be covering. So they won't cover, and they will cover the over-under on that. From my side, I agree with you. I think Brissett is going to be better than anticipated. He's had a lot of time with that first team taking reps. I think T.Y. Hilton's motivated by his great friend's departure. I think he's going to have a good day. I don't know about the Indianapolis backfield. A lot is being put on Marlon Mack's shoulders, and I think at the end of the season it's going to be a bit like last year with a little bit of Nyheim Hines, a little bit of Jordan Wilkins, and Mack getting most of the touches, but still it's less than you'd hope for an RB1, maybe even an RB2 as things go on. From the Los Angeles side of the ball, let's face it, the Chargers have the most potent offensive team in their division in the Kansas City Chiefs. If they're going to make a run at it, and Phil's getting old, which they did really good last year, I think that, they have to start out hot. I do think that they're going to win. I think that they will cover the spread because I think LA's defense is going to be, even with Derwin James out, I think it's going to be better than last year. I think it's been advertised, especially in the fantasy rankings, highly. I think last year they performed less than their value in my mind, but I think this year they'll live up to it from a fantasy perspective. I think that Keenan Allen, I believe, is going to be out for the game, but Hunter Henry's back to form. Mike Williams is he caught 7 touchdowns last year. Expect that to go up this year, especially with the departure of Tyrell Williams to the Oakland Raiders. And in the backfield, I actually think they're going to run a lot in this game. I think they want to show Melvin Gordon that they don't need him, that Austin Eckler can handle the job. I think Eckler will get the majority of the carries. I do think he'll get spelled by Justin Jackson, but I'm not expecting a running back by committee so much. I think I'm going to go LA Chargers 21, Indianapolis Colts 17. So I've got the Chargers not covering the spread, and I've got the over-under covered, 21-17.
Let me just say, Keenan Allen is expected to play.
He is expected to play. Didn't he hurt an ankle recently? I think he sprained an ankle. Okay, so he's ready to go. I think he hurt it in preseason, and I heard it this week. So, all right. Even still, and that's great, but, there's plenty of weapons on that offense. But 21-17, that's where I'm going.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So then we got the last game, and this looks to be a nationally televised game because we're expected to get it here in Atlanta, and that's going to be your New York Football Giants heading to Dallas.
Yes.
So I, of course, have to allow you to lead off and do you the courtesy since you did that for me.
All right. Well, look, I'm a Giants fan that I do love Eli Manning. He will go down in Giants history. Love the guy. But I watched him, and it is his time, just like it was his time with Peyton. And do I think that Jones is going to come in early? No. In my mind, and what I think might be ideal, maybe halfway through game 3 or halfway through game 4. I don't care how good Eli's doing. I don't think he's going to be able to do good enough to.
Do you know when your bye week is?
Yeah. Give me a second. I'll pull it up. But I think they'll probably ease Jones in somewhere around, week 4, I'd say, and maybe 5 latest, but somewhere in that range. And I think that then you'll see Jones slowly take over and we'll have the reins from there on out. Unfortunately, we have the luxury every year, the past several years, of going to Dallas. Zeke's back. I don't think he'll get a ton of run, but he'll see the ball. Don't be surprised if he gets the 20 carries. Okay, now keep in mind, Zeke usually gets in the upper 20s with his carries, mid to upper 20s on the regular. I know he's been out. I still think he'll get that. Jason Witten, old, come back out of retirement. He owns the Giants. In daily fantasy, if you need somebody low price that on a tight end spot that's going to score, he'll probably score. He always does. The spread on this game, what'd we say? We got Dallas giving us a touchdown. I don't know if it's that. I think it'll be closer than that. But I think Dallas will end up winning the game. I think Saquon will have a good day. I think he'll go over 100 all-purpose yards. I don't think he'll go over 100 rushing. But I think he could have, a good 50 yards receiving as well. We'll probably see the end zone. Saquon could see the end zone twice today because he may be all that we have. Now, Sterling Shepard is expected to play back. Evan Ingram, I think Sterling will have a good day. Not so sure about Ingram, but at the end of the day, I think it's the Dallas defense that is much improved, and that linebacking core could be the best in football. And I think they're going to end up winning this game. I'm gonna go on the lower scoring side. I'm going to say 17-14 Dallas. So Dallas wins the game but doesn't cover the 7 points, and we are going under on the 45. What do we have on that? 45.5, I think. Yeah, we're going under. 17-14 Dallas.
All right. I look at this game, and I'm going to go back to a little past history. Dallas has won the last 4 games against the Giants. I see this game not being terribly close. My prediction on the score is 28-10. If you look back at history for the Dallas Cowboys, they cover. What I do expect to see is Eli Manning is going to pass for 40-plus times in this game. Saquon Barkley on the running side will be held in check. Will be heavily involved in the passing game. So I do see him again. I think getting the touches, especially in a PPR league, will still be solid. Could find the end zone on that score. I see Dallas controlling the line of scrimmage. I see on really both sides of the ball, and I see Zeke running. I see Pollard getting his touches. This is just a little bit more of the MO of what I've seen of these teams as of recently, and I think the tremors lightly begin to start for Daniel Jones, as I think you kind of are alluding to that's the expectation. If their bye week is before I would say like week 7, I would expect them to wait. It's not. It's after week 7.
Yeah, I believe it's like a week 10. I'm going to give it to you right here, but that's where I think it is.
Well, the key I think will be is they're going to try to find where he has a longer week, so we'll have to kind of look at the Giants' schedule and see if they have an opportunity to put Daniel Jones in, much like what the Bears did with
11.
Trubisky. All right,
week 11.
So they won't get the luxury of probably waiting until the bye week. And again, I think this Giants team's better than that. I'm using a little more of the past history of these two teams, and especially playing in Dallas, to come up with that. I don't think the Giants are the worst team in the East. I think that's definitely Redskins are gonna take that spot. So it should be interesting to play out. Again, I want to watch it. It's an old school rivalry. It's a great one for week 1.
Yep. So now the night game, Sunday night game, 8:20 on NBC, nationally televised. The Pittsburgh Steelers will travel to the Super Bowl champion New England Patriots. Again, I think I said it was on NBC, as all Sunday night games are. New England is giving 5.5 to the Steelers. Over-under is 50. Pittsburgh, obviously, without Le'Veon, without Antonio Brown, and we just have some breaking news that we'll talk about that when we cover the Raider game. But Tom Brady getting a little bit older. Sony Michel, I think, will see the workload that he was drafted in the first round, that they hardly ever do things like that, to do this year. Can he stay healthy? And I think the Josh Gordon experiment will continue to be the Josh Gordon experiment. He'll have his days, won't be consistent. I don't expect him to last the year without some other issue. I think that Julian Edelman will have a great day today, okay? Gronk is gone. He's the slot. He's the guy. He was even with Gronk there. I think that Juju will start to definitely take over Antonio Brown's role, but I think he's going to have a tough day today. Who I am interested in seeing is that next receiver for Pittsburgh. And I think the guy that, well, at least I expect to be looked at a lot, especially out the gates, is going to be their tight end, Vance McDonald. Yep. He's much like Gronk used to be. Just a big guy who can block, get off the ball, catch the ball, and is a mismatch size-wise for linebackers and safeties. So James Conner, I think that he could have a decent day as well, but I don't anticipate this to be as high-scoring as they're expecting with the 50 points. I think it's going to be a New England victory. I think it's going to be a 24-20 is what I'll say. 24 points for the Patriots, 20 for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh covers the 5.5 spread, and we are going under on the 50-point over-under.
Interesting. Okay, well, I'm going to go the other way on this one. My belief is that Pittsburgh is going to win this game. I think Pittsburgh is going to win the game 27-23, get my number out there right off the bat. I think a few things. Here's why. I think on the Pittsburgh side, I think distraction has left the building. I think this is still a very balanced team. It's something Pittsburgh's been dealing with for a while. If it's not a Ben Roethlisberger issue, it was a Antonio Brown issue. or Mike Tomlin issue. It was kind of everything. It's been kind of quiet out of that camp, and I think that is going to be, something that's actually going to help Pittsburgh this year. I think that you're also going to see it'll be the same rumbling. For some reason, I think it's going to be this, this is the year where Tom Brady, and I'll admit, I fell susceptible to Tom Brady last year, the regression. I think those rumblings will start on the way to an 11-5 season and a Super Bowl run as he does it.
I don't know how they do it.
But they got to have their hurdles. And, I personally am just more about, I think Pittsburgh finds a little bit of balance. I don't know if this game's really going to tell us who they are through the rest of the year. New England losing isn't the beginning of a downfall for me. But I do think that Pittsburgh's just getting that issue out of the locker room. And again, I'm not just talking about Antonio Brown. I'm talking about the fact that their offseason has been relatively quiet. I think they're quietly rebuilding that defense as they do a lot of years. They got a kid that's looking really good in Devin Bush out of the gate. The guy's a tackling machine, playing in the middle. So I just think Pittsburgh takes this one, and that's my vote on it.
Well, here's the thing before we close out on this game is that, never underestimate Tom Brady. We talk a lot about college football on our podcast and how coaching is so important and how it really isn't the same in the NFL. Except for the New England Patriots.
Yep.
It's the only team that the coach truly has a really big impact on. And at the end of the day, I think that they'll come out. Yes, Devin Bush is great. He's also a rookie. And I'm sure Tom Brady is going to feast on that with Edelman right there in the slot. I think from a game script, you said much more balance from Pittsburgh side of the ball. I think it's going to be both ways. That's why I think it's going to be lower scoring. It's not going to hit the over. I think it's going to be balanced both ways. I think it's going to be a chess match between them. These are old rivals. They are typically the AFC teams that are fighting to get in the Super Bowl at the end of the year. They know each other well. The veterans on the team know each other well. At this point, the coaches on each side know each other well. And I think the game script is going to be a mishmash of run and pass, and it's going to be a chess game based on what the other team does. So it's going to be a fun one regardless.
I agree. I will, and then I'll close it out with one small point is, unlike most teams in the NFL, and I talk about the importance of getting distraction out of there, I think that one thing I will say, the New England Patriots actually are one of the few teams I've ever seen that play better with adversity. And I think losing a game like this is kind of what gets Brady motivated. So that's why I say I don't know. All is not lost.
But last year didn't they start out losing like the first three, and then everybody's like, "Oh, it's over." No,
they got beat up pretty good defensively by Mahomes.
But listen, man, then it's that whole it's over,
Right.
And then they were like, Belichick, Brady, the team retorted like, "Really? Like, really?"
And that's my point. I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
I think they're going to try to avoid that opening of the season this year.
Well, we'll see. That's why they play the game.
All right, we're going to jump. There's actually 2 Monday night games, and we will jump into those. Monday, September 9th.
This is going to be playing at 7:10 in the evening.
We have the Houston Texans traveling down to New Orleans, taking on the Saints on ESPN. Right now the spread is New Orleans giving 7 to the Texans, and the over-under is 53. Keep in mind, this was the number 3. Remember, we said it was your game, was the 3 on our fantasy podcast. It was the game tonight with Green Bay at Chicago, the game Saturday at 1 with Atlanta at Minnesota, and this was our 3rd game to watch this week, especially from fantasy perspective. Houston going to New Orleans.
Yeah, I'm jacked to watch this one. This one just looks on paper and past history looks like a lot of fun.
Video game numbers.
Yes. I think what's really intriguing to me is, you've got Drew Brees, Sean Payton, the whole cast of offensive characters all coming back with no expectation of any slowdown. I got no expectation. Like I said, somebody is going to have to put Drew Brees in a coffin probably before I feel like he can't throw for 4,500 plus yards.
For real.
So this guy is just the definition of resilience. So I really think that the game is in New Orleans, so they're going to have that hometown advantage. Whereas you've got the Texans who have made some moves. We talked a little bit about it. It does smell a little bit in some ways like panic. To me, I just think there's a little bit of disarray there. I don't think they know what they've got in their running game, and I see them struggling to get off to a fast start. And anytime you can give the Saints a little bit of a head start, it's not a good thing. It rarely comes out. And this, again, I want to go back to my Fitzmagic comment of last year where they unexpectedly went into the Superdome and won that game. I think they are going to be prepared, and I think they are going to take this game. I think they're going to win the game 34-24. I think you're going to see the usual suspects. I think there's going to be some disarray, but in the end, you're going to see guys like Deshaun Watson and Hopkins be able to put points on the board. I think they're just going to spot the Saints a little too much early on as they try to figure things out. And I just see that the Saints are going to win that game. I think it's going to be fun. It's with New Orleans defense where we may not see the complete exposure of the protection. But New Orleans is not god-awful. I wouldn't put them in the Kansas City category. They're probably a middling defense, so there could be some trouble there. And so that's why I give the edge to New Orleans with the home field advantage, with the known entities that they have, and less flux right now. I think that just translates into a win 34-24.
Okay. I think New Orleans is primed to start the year off good. I don't think it's the scenario they walked into last year at the beginning of the year where they were upset in the playoffs the year prior by the play that Diggs made in the last second.
Absolutely.
The Minnesota Miracle. And so that gave them, despite whatever may have happened last year, I feel like they tried to use that as motivation. They don't have that. I don't think they need it. I think that, you said it, Brees is Drew Brees, man. The guy took a pay cut for the team. I don't think he's going to do that and go out and lay an egg. Okay? He's motivated no matter what. I think that we will see Michael Thomas. I think we'll see a lot of Alvin Kamara today or Monday. I think that he's taking over the backfield. He's going to go over 100 rushing. I think he could go close to 50 receiving, a couple touchdowns. I think on the Texans side of the ball, defensively, I think that New Orleans has the advantage. I told you before, I think their defense is sneaky good. They've got some players. I am interested to see year two of their flyer pick in Marcus Davenport, see if he really comes off the edge as the freak they expected him to be. But I think that Houston will be throwing the ball all day long with the issues in the backfield, the bringing Lamar Miller going down, then bringing in some new guys. I don't think they quite have it down. I don't think they're going to run anything cute in terms of run plays. It's going to be pretty basic. I think that from a pass receiving standpoint, that's what the Houstons are going to be all over. I think Deshaun Watson's going to go crazy, have over 300 yards. I think Nuke Hopkins is going to have maybe somewhere in the area of 12 receptions, about 150 yards and 2 TDs. And I say that because, one, on the left cornerback side is Eli Apple. Again, I'm a New York Giants guy. And when he got better with the Saints, now he didn't. He's poo. On the other side, they have a really, really good cornerback, and their right cornerback, Marshawn Lattimore. The thing is this. Nuke's had his way with Marshawn Lattimore in college, okay, when Clemson played Ohio State. So I don't think there's anything to be afraid of for him there. So I really do think it's going to be the DeAndre Hopkins show Monday night. I think he's going to go crazy. At the end of the day, I will say that the Saints win this game. I just think the options they have, again, if I'm saying DeAndre Hopkins, that being it, then that's going to be it. I think they're going to be that New Orleans has way more options than Houston does. I say final score 38-34 in favor of New Orleans. And so based on those picks, we've got you covering the spread for New Orleans with a 34-24 and going over on the over-under because that was 53. And I am picking Houston to cover the 7, losing 38-34 to New Orleans, but going over as well on the 53 over-under.
All right, let me just post a little bit of a correction that you had. You were right in what you said, but you said the Minnesota Miracle is they don't have that motivation anymore, just because that was 2 years ago when they played and Minnesota went and lost the Eagles. Remember last year was even worse. Was what created the worst decision I think the NFL has made, which is the ability to review pass interference, because you had the pass interference against the Rams that was egregious would be nice.
Well, who was it? I can't remember who it was. The guy that made on the Rams that was.
I can tell you.
Well, anyways, they interviewed him after, right? And he was like, yeah, I messed him up. I had to take him out of the play. It was either that or he would have scored. Yep. So he admitted to it.
So you do. I mean, I think there is some hunger there, and you may remember that the Saints, and it was a fan of the Saints when put a billboard up at the Super Bowl that said the real NFC champions. So I think Breeze is more controlled and more experienced than to really need that type of motivation. But nonetheless, that is still there. So we're gonna get to the last game because we want to wrap this up. But before we talk about the game itself,
let's tell everybody who it is. Yeah. We've got the late game Monday night is at 10:20 on ESPN. It'll probably start out on the Deuce until the first game's over. It's the Broncos, the Denver Broncos traveling to the Oakland Raiders. I've seen the line back and forth on this. What we see now is Denver is giving 2 on the road to Oakland, and it's an over-under of 42.5. So before we dive in, dun, 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 breaking news.
Yeah, the man across from me is feeling this because he's got him on a few of his fantasy teams. But what just came out in the last hour or so is that there is a suspension looming for Antonio Brown. It has nothing to do with his feet. It's got nothing to do with his helmet. Apparently, there was a altercation between him and the general manager, Mike Mayock.
Love him. Mike Mayock.
I've seen some initial reports here. For those who don't know, it kind of slipped by a little bit as just an Antonio Brown thing. But he posted a written message out that it just really didn't come across very well. And apparently there was a discussion about that. And I'm seeing, again, these are not, I don't want to say they're not confirmed. They are getting posted out there, but I'm always wary of what gets posted on the internet, even though everything's always true. Was that there was something to the effect of Antonio Brown threatening to punch Mayock in the face that led to this.
You idiot.
The marriage was like a Kardashian marriage to begin with. And it may end as quickly as a Kardashian marriage.
If you watched Hard Knocks, and we've had a podcast about those, they're definitely, and again, I like Mike Mayock. This is a guy that I preferred his draft analysis over Mel Kiper and Todd McShay on ESPN, and was almost a little upset that he went to the Raiders because I enjoy his draft analysis so much. I wanted to see him. But that said, he is a smart guy. And if you watch the Hard Knocks, I'm sure there was reluctance on his part bringing a guy like Antonio Brown over, not from the talent perspective, but from the character perspective. And as you watch, the episodes of Hard Knocks with the whole helmet issue, there definitely, between John Gruden, head coach, and Mayock, the GM, there definitely seems to be, they're starting to feel some kind of way about it. And it definitely seems to be more from Mayock. Okay, and now here we are. It's come to a head, and what are they talking about? Taking his guaranteed money away? This is going to be an absolute soap opera.
And just, Mayock's old school, and so is Gruden. Even though they were new school, or particularly Gruden when he came into the league, now the league's changed, and I think they hid some of the frustrations. You could see, even in Hard Knocks, I made a comment after watching the first episode or two that we watched together, was it really seems to me like Gruden's holding back in some of his comments, knowing that he's mic'd up. Look, the fact of the matter is that Antonio Brown is incredibly talented.
He's a playmaker.
But,
and when he's not making plays, he is allowing the rest of the offense to make plays because the defense on the other side of the ball is focusing in on him.
Yeah, I'll contrast him with another player we've talked about for running his mouth, and that's Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey will run his mouth, even in the media. He will run his mouth, obviously, out on the field. You can see it even if you can't hear it, and sometimes you can because they can't bleep everything. But the fact of the matter is he stays focused on players and their games. You don't see this sideshow mentality, and that is, I think, why it's tolerated more so by Jacksonville as opposed to it's hard to tolerate. I mean, we're talking about a guy that can't get his feet, puts him in a friggin' ice cube chamber. And I don't care what anybody says who made a mistake. It's just garbage. You get onto the helmet thing, which should have just been done quietly if it's really that big a deal. Work it out with the NFL, have the discussions, but he had to bring the circus sideshow to it, and then he's got his agent Rosenhaus coming out. It just, what it speaks to is I'm not about the team. I'm not about the team. And the thing about Jalen Ramsey is he'll talk trash about a guy, but he will go nose to nose and play that guy. Antonio Brown is picking the wrong arguments. And so to me right now, what this does for this game, I think Denver is weak on the offensive side of the ball. I'm not a big, believer that Flacco's going to do a lot for them. I think Fangio's going to make their defense very strong. And I think because of this circus sideshow, I think it actually hurts them in the first game. And I was kind of leaning more towards Oakland.
So was I with him there.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say that one guy can make that much of a difference, but, kind of looking at the quarterback that Derek Carr is and watching Hard Knocks and seeing his excitement and his interaction with Antonio Brown, I think mentally it's going to affect him in this game.
Yeah, well, I mean, you think about it. There's a really good story in Hard Knocks we touched on, which was their tight end. Their tight end gets going, Waller, but he's an unproven commodity with a past history, and I hope he plays well. They're soft on the outside with him, and you got to remember they're going to run a rookie running back. And so if I'm Denver, I'm keeping guys up on the line, and I'm putting pressure. I'm playing press coverage, and I'm going to make Derek Carr prove that he is an upper echelon quarterback. And to this point, we've struggled to see that. We thought this was the guy that was going to help him get over the hump. And so at this point, I'm going to go 21-14 with the Broncos. I don't know. I just think there's too much chaos in the building. And the worst thing is, to me, that could happen is if I'm wrong and Oakland wins without him, I think that almost makes this a bigger deal.
Yeah, it could be. That could
at least as far as Antonio Brown is concerned.
I think that I'm not too far off from you on this one. Actually, I've been just like the line. It's teeter-tottering back and forth, and I definitely think with Antonio Brown, it's swinging me more towards Denver. I think that the game is in Oakland. I think that the crowd will be fired up, but with this news happening, this could take it down a notch. You hit on it before, and you've spoke on him many times because he comes from your team. The Broncos' new DC, new head coach, Vic Fangio. I think we had spoke about Dan Quinn when he came over from Seattle as a DC, as the head coach of the Falcons, and imprinting his defensive schemes on that defense. That's what Fangio is going to do from a head coach perspective, and I think that's going to cause problems for Oakland and Derek Carr. Somebody that I'm excited to see is my man Hunter Renfrow. I think he'll get a lot of pump because he runs great routes. He can catch the ball. He knows how to get down. He knows how to get separation. He's a slot guy, and he'll be a check down for him. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a close game, like you said, and I'm going to go 21-17 in favor of Denver. So both of us, you had 21-14, I had 21-17. Both of us are taking Denver to cover. And let's see, 31, and both of us are going on the under then.
Yeah. I honestly, I was closer. I even was considering Oakland, but this news is what we've been talking about with each other and on some of our podcasts. I just
Hopefully
think
it
it's
won't.
distraction.
Yeah,
stage.
and I, for their sake and for all those that in fantasy football that have an Antonio Brown or even a Derek Carr for that matter, if you're in a bigger league or a 2-quarterback superflex league,
Yep.
he can put up points. I hope it's not something that drags out all year. That's all.
No, but they've already had to hug and kiss and make up like a really bad relationship already. And, it's how much are we going to buy that happening? So it'll be interesting. And what we're going to do, though, is we want to wrap up just this show. We're going to pick our Super Bowl. We're going to pick our offensive and defensive players of the year and our offensive and defensive rookies of the year, just so we can get on record whether we know anything about football or not.
Yeah.
Where would you like to start off?
All right, well, let's start. Let's see. We're doing what? We're doing Super Bowl?
Who's going to be in the Super Bowl with the winner? We're going to do our offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, so our offensive and defensive MVPs, and then our rookie of the years.
Okay.
You pick the spot.
Let's see. Let's start with the Super Bowl prediction. I actually think that the Rams will find their way back in it. I think we'll see two teams that were in the playoffs last year. I think that Kansas City's going to get it done this year. And I think at the end of the day, though, Kansas City's defense is not going to be as good as the Rams' defense. And in the Super Bowl, I will pick the Rams over the Kansas City Chiefs.
All right, but you think they're good enough to get there?
I think they're good enough to get there.
All right. I am going to go for the all-geriatric Super Bowl. And I am going to pick the New Orleans Saints to play the New England Patriots. I know that's a stretch, but I just believe with all this new age that there's going to be a little bit of a renaissance from the old guys. And so I am actually going to pick the Saints to win the Super Bowl this year with Drew Brees getting his second Super Bowl and maybe going off into the sunset with the win.
I like it.
Which I would love.
I like it. That's fun. Now we were going with MVPs, huh? This is a little different. I guess if you're going to go offensive MVP, and I'm talking the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I'm going to say Patrick Mahomes as the offensive MVP this year. He had 50 TDs last year. I believe he'll do the same, maybe even more this year, which is incredible, and that will earn him an offensive MVP award.
Interesting. I was kind of going to go a different route with this, but I've been rethinking it as of recently, and I think I have to go with the guy that I'm going to have go win the Super Bowl, and I think that Drew Brees is going to win an MVP this year. I think he is going to be just lights out.
Very good.
So this means he's probably going to get smashed in the first week and have a shoulder broken, and they're going to lose like 35-6.
And he'll never play again. Yeah. He's not riding off into the sunset. He's riding off on a stretcher.
Yep.
All right, now you go first on this one. Defensive MVP.
There is only one. Don't shake your head at me, buddy. Khalil Mack is going to break the sack record this year. And he is going to win the defensive MVP of the year. He's going to get 24 sacks. Right? I believe the record is it 22 and a half or 23, something like that?
Yeah, you know who he's breaking that on.
You mean he broke it on Brett Favre, you mean?
No, I mean like whose record he's breaking.
Yeah, Brett Favre's record.
Yeah.
Go back and watch the highlights,
Big Mike. My man, Big Mike.
Watch the highlights.
Gotta love Michael Strahan.
Talk about giving up the body.
This is a tough one for me, and I don't disagree with you there. I think Khalil Mack's great, and for all intensive purposes, I might go there as well. But just to be different, I'm going to stick with. And again, I'm going to pick a guy that's an MVP that his team's in the Super Bowl, and someone we all know plenty about, and that has been there before. And that's Mr. Aaron Donald. I think, he's going to go crazy this year. And just like he always does, I think that the division that they're in, playing the Seahawks, is going to be the toughest task, because then other than that, they've got the Cardinals and they've got the 49ers in their division that they'll each get to play twice. I think that Aaron Donald's going to have a bang-up year. I don't think he'll break the sack record like you, but I think that's my defensive MVP. So where are we going now to wrap this thing up?
We got to go to the offensive and defensive rookies of the year.
Okay, well, this time you go first, offensive rookie of the year, and I'll go first on defensive.
I want to go first on defensive.
Okay,
I'm gonna lead off
fine.
with defensive. You give me the option, then you don't let me choose.
You're right.
So I'm gonna take it from you. I'm gonna go down to Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville has a little bit of a resurgence defensively this year, and I think Josh Allen is going to be a big part of that. I think he's going to become very noticeable there. A first-round pick out of the Kentucky program, and I think he just gets it done. And I think he's going to win Rookie of the Year. He's going to have big sack totals and make a lot of impact plays.
Nice. I'm going to go with a guy that didn't play a lot last year, but I think that, honestly, I think he's better than his brother. And I think that this could be a great year for a young Mr. Nick Bosa. Okay? I think he's going to get out there and really show his value. Again, he didn't play a lot yet last year with Ohio State because he got a little dinged up, didn't want to damage his draft status, so decided to sit out the whole year. And I think, he's healthy, ready to go. I think it's going to be impressive what he does as a rookie, and that will earn him the Rookie of the Year nomination on the defensive side of the ball. And granted, he was, he was San Francisco's pick at number 2, I think. Mm-hmm. Number 2. So, one of the things I think is San Francisco's had a tough time lately with their defensive guys. Some people they've had to get rid of, some people that have had character issues, and I think he's going to really stand out on that defense, which is one of the reasons why.
Awesome. Okay, so wrap us around to the last round, which is the Offensive Rookie of the Year.
I swear to goodness sake, if you say David Montgomery, just the all Bears off. Really? No, I'm.
What's with the judgment? I haven't said anything.
Dude, because I know you too well. There is this is going to be tough for me, and I'm going to go ahead. I guess it's not anything flashy, although he could be flashy, and this is going to be solely based on the success of the way they're running this offense, and that's the number 1 pick, Kyler Murray.
Okay.
And I think that certainly he's going to take his lumps. I think that the Arizona defense isn't very good, and as a result, they are going to have to be moving the ball constantly, playing catch-up. The ball's going to be in his hands, and running and throwing, I think he'll put up monster numbers. I think he'll have a valiant effort for his team, even though I do think the Cardinals will probably end up last in their division. And that's kind of what worries me, for him to also get the nod as the offensive rookie. But I just think with everything that they're set up to do and the new coach and them doing, dumping their first-round quarterback pick in Josh Rosen to bring in this guy up first overall, I think he's got the confidence, and that's who I'm going to go with.
All right. I'm going to talk about the offensive rookie of the year for me. Would not shock me if it's somebody nobody's talking about because of where we're at. I think Kyler Murray is in just too much of a detrimental situation from a quarterback standpoint. I think the fact that Haskins and Daniel Jones won't start the whole season will impact them, which I would generally lean more towards a quarterback. My pick up until about 2 hours ago would have been Josh Jacobs, because if the Raiders could have had a 500-plus season with that turnaround and him being the primary ball carrier, would have been a pick I would have gone with the running game, because I think he could have the most impact on a team. But I do think that they are I think they're in peril now, and I think that's a team that if you can't be 500. So I am going to go with who you hate me for, which is David Montgomery. I mean, David Montgomery is in the best situation with the best team with a real chance to start. It might be a little bit by default, and like I said, I wasn't going to go that route before, but I just think you got to be in the right position with the right team, and it's much harder to stand out offensively than what you'd go with. So again, I would not have gone that route 2 hours ago. I was thinking Josh Jacobs. I think Oakland's in trouble now, and it's going to be tough to be rookie of the year offensively on a team that doesn't go 500, and that could very well happen with Oakland.
Yep, I hear you. All right, well, good. There we go. We'll get this up there as soon as we can. Enjoy. More coming soon.